Being Real with Bethany, available wherever you get your podcast. Sponsored by Bryan Jewelry and the Montgomery County Probate Court. Ever since she was a little girl, I've always tried to show I cared by giving her the very best.
I know. That's why I went to Bryan Jewelry.
Smart man.
When it's time to ask the most important question of your life, make sure you have what you need to show her you're serious. At Bryan Jewelry, we'll help you through every step of the way to find the right ring for her. We can create beautiful custom designs and also engrave your personalized engagement message. Give her the best. Bryan Jewelry, Prattville.
How long have you guys been married?
30 years.
Has it been 30 years?
No, it hasn't been quite 30.
We're 30 mark, let's see.
When's your anniversary?
Going on 30.
They'll put you to the test. When's your anniversary?
It's 27.
When?
27 years.
27.
We got married in 96.
Okay.
So 26, 2.5 years.
No, I don't do math, so I'm counting on y'all to know.
February will be 28 years.
Okay. Okay,
How
good.
about that? And we dated 3. In a large church. I mean, there were about 10,000 people. And, we want to, as John had said, we want everybody to go with us.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, so let me ask you about that too, because everybody knows John Ed. You are the minister of the mega church that Fraser has become, that you really made it. But what is it like to be married to the minister of the mega church? Because I imagine that means you're also married to the ministry as well, right?
It does. But I was talking to my daughter about this just yesterday, and it's truly a calling. And I knew that at the time. I knew that it was a call. And with all of that, I appreciate the training from the generous people that helped me in my life to prepare me for that. It had been a deep dream in my life to marry a preacher, because when I was a little girl, I used to go play the piano with my daddy, and he preached at country churches around. So I just kind of always liked that and had that in my heart. But what was it like? I believe if you weren't called to it, it could be hard.
Yeah.
But today, I love to tell pastors' wives, it's a privilege. And you don't really realize what a privilege it was to be in that position and to be able to love people and serve people until you're gone. And once John Ed was retired and we found ourselves back out in the working world and all, you realize the gift of time that God gave us for that opportunity for ministry, to love people, to serve people. And with that in mind, doing it from that perspective, it was a joy. It was a joy.
You said you had people to prepare you, but really, were you all the way prepared for what you were stepping into when you stepped into it?
You never know what you're going to step into like that. But the beautiful part about it is he made it easy. And John Ed is such a leader, but not only did he lead the church, he led our family. And when things got overwhelming for me, how do we do 6 weddings a day? How do we go to the funerals and then weddings, and it's the ups of one thing and it's just mixed emotions all day long. And we were at the church every night. It was our life. We had people to our home. We just did it and loved it. But he prepared the way by saying this, and this, I tell people this all the time, Lynn, I really want you to be here with me for this. I would like you to be at this, but it's okay if you're not. And this is one you really could sit out on.
Yeah.
And so he made it easy for me to take on, because I was working full-time at the time as well.
Which is, so you had a full-time job, you had a family, and you're married to not just a minister, but you're married to John Ed Matheson. I can't even imagine, is there a balance there? I heard somebody tell me one time, there's really no balance between work and life. Sometimes work takes the priority, sometimes life takes priority. What a juggle was that?
Well, every day is a vacation to us. We both love what we do. And I love my decorating business, but I love the ministry. I really miss being in an active role of ministry. I'm feeling a call to that. I just love it. But John Ed and I, probably those were years that, as we look back on them, we're just so thankful. We were in ministry at a good season of life. When the church was where it was when we were at Fraser, we just, the lines fell around us in pleasant places. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
And it was just really great. But he was such a leader that that opportunity was just a gift from God. There's no other way to explain it.
You talk a little bit about that. I relate to you saying the highs and the lows because I said a lot of times in my career, I tend to meet people in their highest of highs or their lowest of lows. And it is really hard sometimes to not get caught up in all of those emotions. How have you, especially when you bring it into your marriage, how do you keep both of you from getting caught up in all those emotions?
Can I say that probably sports helped me a lot in a real sense. And when I was in high school, I played basketball. In my senior year in Opelika, Coach asked me, would you play quarterback? I didn't play football my first 2 years because I'd made All-State my sophomore year and I didn't want to get hurt. And I was really chicken, but I didn't want anybody to know how chicken I was. But he said, if you'll come play, we won't have anybody. You won't have to do those drills where you do head-on tackling. We put one of those yellow jerseys on you. I said, good. Can I wear it during the ball game also? He said, no, but he taught me something. He said, now listen, the quarterback has to stay even keeled. If you recover a fumble, you can't get all excited. And if you lose a fumble, you can't get all depressed. You got to lead the team through whichever it is. And so he worked with me and another guy about how in football, when something good happens, you got to take it in stride. And like sometimes when we're watching football now, our team will score a touchdown. She said, why don't you jump up and holler? I said, well, hey, I'm as excited, but we got another play coming up in just a minute.
That's true.
So you can't be too high, you can't be too low. You got to be the leader as you move forward. And in the ministry, if you have a wedding at 10 o'clock in the morning and a funeral at 2 o'clock, those people haven't been through the other situations. So to some degree, you have to be able to have a mental focus that you can go, both from one, you can't overly extend yourself in one area.
Have you ever been in a position where perhaps you brought the wrong attitude or maybe the right attitude to the wrong spot, to the wrong place?
Well, the first thing you always do is check the manual and see is it wedding or funeral, because you don't want to start out a wedding with the funeral and vice versa. But you have to do that.
Yeah, Bethany, I asked him one day right when we first got married, I said, now, are you a morning person or a night person?
Oh, good question.
Because a lot of people want to know that. We're either a morning person or a night person. He said, Lynn, I can't be either because I can't control when people die. I can't control, I've got to be on all the time. I said on 24/7. Well, I took that to heart and it works in my business. I'm a 24/7 person because I'm available. One of the things that I really have to say about John Ed, and I've learned from him and I try to teach my grandkids, is he's available.
Yeah.
People would think that a pastor of our large church wouldn't be available. He will answer his phone, and there was not one time that the kids or me ever felt like we were not first priority. If I call him today, he will answer the phone. If he can't, he calls me right back. I know he will call. That's a lot. When we're doing all the things that we're doing, I don't call him if I don't need him. He doesn't bother me if he doesn't need me, but when he calls, I know it's important. Those kind of freedoms that he gives and that we give each other, the respect, I call it, really helps our busy lives, as other people would call them, function well.
Yeah.
So I learned to be a 24/7 person.
So are you a morning person or an evening person?
I don't know anymore. Because I used to be a night person, but now I get up and get a lot done early in the morning before I get to work. And with grandkids, you just never know when you're going to be on. And we are blessed to have 10 grandkids that are in college, 2 left in high school. So we stay busy with that. We both love watching our kids and grandkids.
I know you do. I see all
And the good thing when we married, both of us had kids. And she had 2, I had 2.
Same age.
And so they were friends, so that helped. So when we got married, all 4 kids got married within about a year and a half or
right.
2 years after that. We had 5 weddings, and I don't remember exactly, but
Wow.
around 2 years. So therefore, all of the grandkids are the same age, about the same age.
Well, that makes things pretty fun. I did want to ask you, I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want to ask you about blending your families together. I think for a lot, and I know that your children were older in age, and so it wasn't like you were cramming everybody all into one house at the same time, but I can tell you from my own experience, the term blended families is a ridiculous term. Don't often
Yeah.
blend
We
very
just never looked,
beautifully.
yeah, we never looked at it that way.
But there must have been some sort of challenge. And how did you navigate with each other and with your children that process?
Well, you got to remember that when you've got 5 kids on each side, grandkids, there will naturally be a favoritism to some degree, to hers to her, mine to mine. Now, that doesn't mean it's dominant, but it means that if this kid, if it's hers or mine, and they really need something, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But in normal, everyday, just look at, you have a sense, we do, I think of my kids, I've really got maybe a touch more responsibility, or she has a touch more responsibility, but it's not to exclude anybody. And then when one kid or the other gets in trouble, has an accident, whatever it is, has a breakup with a girlfriend, whatever it is, then all your attention goes to that kid, and it doesn't matter which hereditary line it came out of. Yeah. That's our kid.
I'm grandmother, so I can brag. I have bragging rights, right?
Yeah, always, absolutely.
I would have to say, from day one, now Cy was his son, and Clay is my daughter. And they lived with us for a period of time and went with us everywhere we did. And that was a blessing. They got to see and understand what this life was like a bit. Lauren was in college, and Vicki was in college at the time. As that has translated from the 4 kids and then the 10 grandkids, all the grandkids are about the same age. They are all, this is really something, best friends.
That is neat.
And they are, 8 of them are at Auburn right now. And it's just fun to watch them go through college together. We have Matt, who is fixing to get married in May, and that's Cy's oldest. And then Healy is in Auburn and works with me every day. And just like the daughter, one of my daughters, then we've got JT, who's still in high school in Montgomery, and we have Thomas, who is Clay's youngest, in high school, a senior at Auburn High School, but wants to go to Auburn. The rest of them are there, and they're just best friends. So I get to see them all. They work with me, believe it or not, and if they can't come, they send their friends from the fraternity over. So I've got this group of guys that is, I couldn't be, I really sometimes pat myself on the back and say, is this for real? Yeah. That I get to spend time with my family like that, working.
That is really
and
special.
In ministry,
Is it always that way?
And
is she always this encouraging?
And the timing is always good.
Yes.
It's not just the encouragement, but the timing of it and what she does. And she doesn't realize that you needed that at that time.
There's no way she could have.
She just realized that she needed to say something to you. And I think it's God. It's a God thing. And if we're sensitive to what God's doing, we reach out to people in a lot of different ways. I think in life, one of the things I've discovered is the things that seem to have made the most difference in people's lives I don't remember. Huh. It's where you went somewhere or did something or, that kind of thing. But she is gifted in that way with the gift of encouragement. And the Bible teaches, in Corinthians, it says, sometimes we go through an area where we have to be comforted for the purpose that when God comforts us, we can then become a comfort to somebody else. Yes. So when something happens, it's not just for an event and that's it. It's a reason for it. And if God can comfort me in that situation, then God can use me to comfort somebody else in that same situation. And you never know what somebody's been through that's like your situation, your story. But the Holy Spirit has a way of tagging into those kind of things and saying, hey, here's a word that you could hear. I've been there. And when we've been there, we ought to share it.
Well, you can't take somebody where you hadn't been. And if you can relate to where somebody is and you know how they felt in that moment, just a word of encouragement to help them along the way is what I was given. So freely I was given, freely give. But Johnette's got a very neat story on how, really before we got together, my dad had moved, you tell him, had moved to Montgomery and had to have surgery. And this was before Johnette even knew who I was.
Or he was. Technically, he was in Selma. And he went to Birmingham, had to have heart surgery. And somebody just casually mentioned to me, there's a guy in Selma who's undergoing open heart surgery. And they watch on television. And you might want to call them. Now, I'd have to confess to you that I don't always follow up on every call, but I try to. So I called him, and I just told him who I was, and we prayed, and then for some reason I called him again about 3 days later just to see how he was doing. And that was just the right thing at the right time. To make a long story short, they moved to Montgomery after that. And when they moved here, the realtor said, where would y'all like to live? And her daddy said, my two favorite places are Fraser and Walmart. And I want to be close to both of them. So they bought a house right behind Fraser, about 2 blocks on the hill. If you stand on this front porch, you look across the parking lot at Fraser into the parking lot of Walmart, which was the ideal place. Now, he wasn't a Methodist. They had been a part of the Christian church. But just through that, 2 things that happened. Number one, they became we never had better members than her mom and daddy. I mean, they were just godly, serving people. And then also, through that's how I met her. Yeah. Now, I mean,
you never know.
I had no idea of anything, but God sometimes takes a door and opens another door, and you never know where those doors lead.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat story. I wasn't planning to ask you about your mom, but I did get the privilege of getting to know your mom, and what a special lady.
Ooh, we learned a lot from Granny.
Holy moly, what a special lady. I recently lost my mom. It's been hard, and I know how close you and your mom were.
It's tough when you lose Mama.
Do you ever get over missing her?
I'm not sure we ever get over it. We learn to live with it.
Yeah.
Mama, let's see, I moved her to Auburn so the girls and I could see and take care of her. She had her 5th stroke. She recovered from 4 of them. The last one, she lost all use of her limbs except a little bit of her left hand. And we got wonderful care in Auburn. But I learned a lot from her, Bethany. When she had her stroke, she couldn't talk at all. And God gave her back her voice enough that I could understand her and the girls could understand her. Not full speech, but enough that we could understand her, but she could see us. And I learned the value of just being able to see and hear and talk. And with that, she just always said, well, if this is what I've got, this is what I'll use. And she would use that left hand a little bit, but she was happy. She always said, you choose happiness. She said, God's leaving me here for a purpose. I'm going to tell everybody about Jesus. She was a special, special lady. I watched her many, many years just encourage all of us to be strong. She loved Johnette. She loved the kids, the grandkids. But she was the most selfless human being I've ever met. It was never about her. It was always about us. And in October, she passed away late September. We buried her in October. And my brother died in a car crash a week after that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What I did learn from that, and one of the pains that I've had, is I realized I'm the only one left. That really came across. I'd never felt that before. I'm the only one in my core family. They're the grandkids and the kids. And I realized what a matriarch my mama was. I mean, just a pillar of strength. And so I try to be that, like she would have done. And Mama was special. So it is hard, and I don't know that we ever get over Mama. Yeah. You know, Mama was always the one that could make everything right.
Mm-hmm.
Her mama had a great sense of humor all the time. Just one thing was precious. They were in the nursing home in Auburn. She was expected to die any time. And so all the girls were there and everybody, and she said to everybody, all right, I want everybody to be here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. There'll be a big announcement. I want you to be here. Well, they figured it must be, you know, she's had some premonition or something, because she could die any minute, any time. So all the grandkids, the whole family, they got in there. And 6 o'clock, she came in there and she had her eyes closed. I was thinking after about 10 minutes, she looked around and she says, well, I guess the announcement's not tonight, so let's just go ahead and have some fun.
She said that didn't work. She said, I think it's time. We sang songs, we told her goodbye, and she said, well, that didn't work.
Oh, no.
And she wound up living 2 more months.
Oh, wow.
And, but when it's time, it's time. I would say you can work through anything. So if there was something we need to talk about, he would say, Lynn, I need to talk to you about, and tell me the subject. Could we talk tonight after supper for 30 minutes? I knew when, I knew what about, and we could plan it. Now me, on the other hand, if I've got something on my mind, I want to talk about it right then. I want to get it fixed. So I had to learn to just say, this is bothering me. I'd like to plan a time to sit down and talk about it. Now his schedule early on was a lot busier than mine, and that was hard to wait on those times. Mm-hmm. But if you can really keep what's in you, know that I have his respect. He knows he has mine. We're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it. We're going to lay it on the table, and we agree to disagree. And we work out a solution, and we come up with an answer. This is the truth. We have never, that I'm aware of in our 27, 28 years, had a truly blown argument.
Wow.
We work it out. We talk about it. He will always listen. Now, you don't like to listen a lot.
Let me tell you what I learned.
White tablecloths mean listening.
Let me tell you what I learned. There are 2 kinds of restaurants. Those that have a white tablecloth and those that don't. And whenever I'd say, where would you like to eat? If she names one with a white tablecloth, that means we're going to be there a while and we're going to listen. White tablecloths means listen. And if you just go to a regular table, you don't have to listen. It's not going to be too long.
The food's hot.
But the food's, one you go to eat, the other one you go to listen to. But you got to learn that too.
He was awesome and still is to this day. About that. That is something I encourage all people or all couples or anybody. I encourage the grandkids this. Just say what you need, ask for time, and deal with it. But if you don't deal with it, as you know, Bethany, and I know, and John, it boils up. It builds up inside. And the kids all struggle with questions. They're in changes of life right now, the grandkids, where they're not a child anymore. They're fixing to be their own adult, and they don't know how to make that transition from being a child to being, relate with me this way, Dad, or Mom. And I've just been privileged to be able to help them or walk through that with them, be a safe person for them. John and I both have, how to really become your own person. And I learned a lot from you. By reading your books, those books you've got to go.
They taught you everything.
But no, seriously, he's got a life lesson for just about everything. And it means a lot to just sit down and talk about it. My sister-in-law also gave me a piece of advice to do what I thought, like in fixing a home or just being together. She helped me navigate, like, how do I go to so many things? She said, just show up sometimes, just be there. But the best thing is just to ask God, be myself and ask God, what do I need to change? Otherwise, just be me. Yeah. And that's probably the best advice. It took me a minute to get hold of that and wrap my heads around it, because we're always trying to think we got to please everybody or whatever.
Yes.
But, so I enjoy being me.
Well, nobody's going to be you better than you, right?
And I tell you, we are blessed. We are gifted to be blessed like we are, to have the gifts and talents to be in ministry, to still keep doing ministry, to do the work I love, to have the grandchildren. All of our grandchildren, I have to say, they're above a 10. They are just great grandchildren, and I'm thankful I get to be in their life. Yeah. And John Ed gets to be in their life and help, grow them. I wouldn't change anything.
So what's the biggest piece of advice you would give to a couple, not even a brand new couple, to any couple?
To any couple. I was doing it this morning. What about you? I can tell you what I would say.
What would you say?
I would say trust and respect. You cannot do anything without trust and respect. Mm-hmm. And if you respect the other person for who they are, and choose to love that person, let God love that person through you. It's not what's in this for me. It's what does God want me to do for John Ed? And John Ed does the same thing. What does God want him to do for me? And we wind up, if we keep that triangle, we wind up the best, because I'm not worried about my needs being met, or he's not worried about his needs being met. God takes care of it.
What was your best advice?
And I would say, make every day count. Mm-hmm. Because too many couples, particularly young, are looking out there, man, I'll be glad when I can get to stage 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and you may never reach that stage. And when you get there, you may not have your health. And, people say, well, I don't have enough money. Nobody would swap their eyes for $1 million. If you can see, you're a millionaire. And our attitude is so important. We're blessed beyond comprehension. We need to not live complaining, but instead just being grateful and make this day is the best day we've got. In the kind of uncertainty of this day in which we live, nobody knows what tomorrow is going to hold. Mm-hmm. We better make today count for something, because we don't know if there'll be a tomorrow.
As your daddy would say, when you get up every morning, good Lord, it's morning, or good morning, Lord. And that's always, and that is always better to say, good morning, Lord, and start it out with a positive, a positive thought. This is going to be a great day. It's a great day to make a great day.
Yeah. Well, let me just tell you guys, you have made today count for me in a bigger way than you even know. Y'all have been just
I wish I could listen to you more, because I hear you on TV all the time, and you have such an impact in Central Alabama, and you're far better than you give yourself credit for. So thank you for what you're doing.
Well, you guys are truly gifts to me, and you have been for a lot of years. And I know we don't cross paths on a regular basis, but I want you to know that even when we're not crossing paths, you guys are real gifts to me in my heart. And I'm just so thankful that you spent time with me today. Thank you for making the time. I know how busy you are. Thank you.
And it was an honor to be here. From the first day I met you, I knew you were special and that you would bless many, many people. And you're doing that, and I encourage you to continue on, because you're a blessing.
You guys are precious. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ever since she was a little girl, I've always tried to show I cared by giving her the very best.
I know. That's why I went to Bryan Jewelry.
Smart man.
When it's time to ask the most important question of your life, make sure you have what you need to show her you're serious. At Bryan Jewelry, we'll help you through every step of the way to find the right ring for her. We can create beautiful custom designs and also engrave your personalized engagement message. Give her the best. Bryan Jewelry, Prattville.
Being Real with Bethany, available wherever you get your podcast. Sponsored by Bryan Jewelry and the Montgomery County Probate Court.